Good morning, all. Lots of technical points, very powerful points rather been made. I think I need to contextualize it in terms of smart city mission objectives. Uh, the Indian urban scenario, the sector is actually going through a very paradigm shift. If you really look at the kind of the challenges which we face in the urban scenario, it's enormous, but it's equally enticing. There's a great opportunity. India is a country with about 32% of the people who live in the urban area, contributing to 65% of GDP. So this can actually act as a growth centers for the whole country as a whole. There are a lot of studies which have come up with, the kind of prospective capital investment required in these sectors. And one of the studies says that there's about $1 trillion is the kind of investment required for next 20 years in the urban sectors. In this context, the government of India came up with the Smart City Mission, was launched on 25th of June in 2015 by the Honorable Prime Minister. You need to understand that the objective of the mission is not to transform an Indian city into next New York or Singapore. The scenarios what exist in the developed country and in our nations is completely different. When you're talking about a smart city in European context, you're probably talking about the technology and technology alone. When you're talking about a smart city in Indian context, you're actually grappling with a lot of infrastructural issues. You have the challenges in terms of the universalization of the services. You have the cities in India with 35 LPCD water supply to 300 LPTCD water supply. There's a huge gap existing. There's an issue of inclusiveness. There are sections of society who are actually completely left out of whatever progress which is happening. You have a challenge of financing. I already pointed out the kind of money which is required, and government alone cannot support it. So you need to have innovative financing mechanism, leveraging of that grant fund to capitalize your infrastructure project. You have also the challenge of capacity. In most of the cities you are talking about, I was talking about the implementation of the command control centers at some of the cities. You really look at it, some of the people there at the administration level and probably don't understand the technology. You needed to enhance the capacity. You need to have the individual capacity building. You need to have the institutional capacity building. And most importantly, you need to have the policy initiatives. You need to have the behavioral change. You need to see smart city in this context. You cannot consider this as run-of-the-mill projects implementation scheme. This is a scheme or a program which really look at the whole ecosystem of the urban transformation. What are we going to do under the Smart City Mission? Our practical kind of a objective was to create 100 smart cities. The objective is to provide decent quality of life, somebody has mentioned here, to the citizen in a more sustainable way, and also bring in some of the smart solution to optimize the service delivery. And how do we want to do that? There are two strategic interventions we call as area-based development and the pan-city smart solution. You pick up in one city, one of the area, and develop that area. First you do the kind of the service level gap study, and then you bring that to bridge the gap and bring to some of the international benchmark level. In terms of the basic core infrastructure like water supply, it's an issue in many of the cities. 24/7 water supply, assured electricity, integrated solid waste management systems, affordable housing for the people, creating mixed land use patterns, and having some of the innovative financing mechanisms, structuring the PPPs, bringing the reforms, and bringing, most importantly, the community or the citizen as part of the whole transformation process. So that was the main objective of the Smart City Mission. And then you scale it up over a period of time and then replicate that model into the whole of the city to make the city smart. Now, the problem with that kind of an area-based approach would be that would be touching only 10% or 15% of the people who are living in a city. And what is there for others who are in the city? So we came up with one of the strategic intervention called the Pan-City Smart Solution, which basically looks at one or two services which is pan-city. Let's take an example of the traffic management, or let us take another example of the water management. How will you bring in technology or some of the ICT solutions or the smart solution to optimize the service delivery? And this point is very important. When you look at the smart city and the technology should not be only for the sake of technology. You need to look at what are the kind of the purpose it is serving. And these are very important, because why India has not been so great in transforming city. One of the reasons has been we have been very good at creating infrastructure, but we have been very bad at managing the infrastructure. We need to address that key problem. The technology doesn't always magnify your efficiency. Technology can also magnify your inefficiency. you don't have that kind of a level of infrastructure where automatically the technology come and play a vital role. So you need to contextualize that in the city's perspective. Let's take an example, how the Pan City Smart Solution is going to make that kind of a transformational change. Somebody can actually talk about the road length in Delhi and say that, we don't need any more road length in Delhi because we have enough road infrastructure. There have been billions of US dollars spent over a period of 25 years to improve the road infrastructure. But you know that, nothing has changed much. Somebody can say that using the same level of infrastructure of road, we can actually, and bringing in some kind of a technology, you can provide 40% more efficiency. So there's always an infrastructural and service delivery gap, which is about 35 to 40%. So how would you bring the technology to some of the existing infrastructure and then to optimize the service delivery to the people? So you need to keep, when you apply the technology to the smart city, you need to keep people in mind, and that's going to be the transformational. Is there any problem? Can I continue or? I think I will take only 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. So, I will, and also you need to understand, there's an institutional framework which has been set up, and that is called the SPV. Now, the SPV, the industry friends here, the SPV is a company set up under the Companies Act. And if you really look at, and these are actually the profit for companies, so thereby it gives a lot of powers which is vested with the board of directors. It's not a government company in strict terms, because the 50% of the equity is actually held by the state government and 50% is by the urban local body. Though we give 500 crores as our grant support to each of the SPVs, the selected cities, and another 500 actually come from the state government. But Government of India is actually not the equity shareholder in the company. And the equity shareholder is the urban local bodies and the state government. And urban local body, by definition under the MCA, is not actually a government entity. Thereby, these are actually non-governmental companies. So there's a lot of freedom which is in the institutional setup and the SPV to implement these program and projects. I now come to the technology part of it directly because there's been a lot of points which has been made about it. My request to the industry again would be that when you are talking about the smart solution or the solutions, please keep every city and the people in mind, and that's going to be very important. And I know that Sivasalam sir is here. Bangalore, for example, when we did one of the initial brainstorming session for envisioning the smart city for the Karnataka cities, there was one very interesting point made by one gentleman. We told them to kind of write it down what exactly a smart city means, and one person came out and then he wrote there that for me the smart city, Bangalore smart city means my Bangalore of 40 years back, which is much cleaner, which is less congested, a lot of social interaction, a lot of public places. So you cannot actually straight bracket the smart city concept. And when you apply technology also, please keep it in mind. There would be a lot of vendors, there will be a lot of product. And I've seen it now I've been interacting with a lot of the industry people, a lot of cities. There's always a tendency from the government, there's a tendency from the industry, there's a tendency from various stakeholders to believe that what they have is actually the best. And then try that to the cities and then try to sell it. There's no harm in it. But my appeal to all of you would be that go beyond that, because there's some kind of a transformation happening, and you need to be really a stakeholder and a hand-holding support to the cities in this context. There's a lot of being told about integrated command control centers, GIS, mapping. All these are very important, and I'm very happy or glad to actually know that what all the intellectuals, the technology experts here were talking about are exactly somewhat we also venturing to do it under the Smart City mission. I spoke about the Pan City Smart Solution and how those can be kind of, making the changes in the service delivery for the people. So we came up with, it's not we, when I'm talking about we, Ministry of Urban Development doesn't have a role. Only role we have is that actually we do a lot of hand-holding, we do a lot of capacity building, we guide the cities, and also we provide the selected cities 500 crores, which is actually our grant fund. Other than that, every project is implemented by the Smart City SPV. And they have sent a proposal to us. That's only a proposal. Now the cities are actually doing the projectivization from the proposals. They are also making some kind of a module so that the similar kind of the projects can be put together for optimizing the project management, and that process is on. And you should be glad to know that as on June 25th, when we'll be on 25th June 2017, ideally speaking, the 2 years of the launch of the mission. But if we selected the first round of the cities in January, 29th January, on 29th January. So it's essentially 1.5 years. So we will be rolling out the number of the projects which would have already started or completed as on 25th June 2017 would be about 36,000 crores and about 811 crores, 811 projects. So this is a leveraging of about 7 to 8 times over the grant fund, which has been given by the state government and the central government put together. And that's very heartening. You know, the way how the people are actually, the cities are going for the value capturing mechanism, the people are going for innovative financing mechanism, how do they doing the credit rating, they're accessing the municipal bond, all that. So there is an ecosystem which has been built around it. And that is very important because most of this project has to be financially viable. And for that, you need to identify the revenue stream. You need to escrow that and make the projects viable, because you cannot only alone depend on the grant fund given by the government of India. Now, coming to the integrated command control centers, ideally our point was that there are different urban services which are delivered on different platforms. Now, the greatest challenge for all of us is actually to provide that services. You would find that when you go to most of the cities, you don't have an integrated solid waste management system. If you don't have an integrated solid waste management system, your technology platform cannot work. If you don't have a proper traffic signal and traffic signals communicating each other, and you don't have the smart bus stop, your platform doesn't work. So there is a huge level of infrastructure upgradation which are required in certain service levels before you migrate that into the platform. Considering that also, still we want the cities to try out a integrated platform. When I talk about the integrated platform, what I basically mean is that there could be the 4 layers. I mean, this is a layman and administrative point of view. One is the people, and I cannot exclude the people from the whole point. I needed to keep people in mind. I need to keep the things in mind. It could be the smart building, it could be the smart e-governance module, it can be smart solar, smart energy, smart water supply, all of that. You can essentially have every component, but you need to have the bottom layer infrastructure. So our attempt is actually telling the cities through convergence to create that kind of a pan-city infrastructure first, and then on top of it, bring in technology to optimize your service delivery. That is the challenge.